Hello, good people. Welcome back to Creative for Christ's Word with me, Langston Bartley, your speaker. Today we are going to continue the story of Joseph from where we last left off. And Joseph has been the recent character in the Young and Mighty series that we've been discussing. If you haven't seen the last episode on Joseph, I would encourage you to listen to it. It's going to give you an overview of the story up to now. So I would go back, listen to it, and get all the information you need to help you better understand the story. Today we're going to see the importance of integrity and how it applies not just how it applied to Joseph's life, but how it applies to us in our lives as well every day. Because every day we have the ability to use integrity. With that said, let's get right into the story. So in the last episode, Joseph has been sold by his brothers and has been taken to Egypt. In Egypt, an officer and captain of the guard for Pharaoh by the name of Potiphar decides to buy Joseph. When he purchases Joseph, he puts him to work in his house. Being a high-ranking officer for Pharaoh, Potiphar was very wealthy. Joseph, however, was a hard worker and very successful in Potiphar's home. His master noticed that the Lord was with him and that God provided for Joseph. And that's real important too, because when people see you work, sometimes when they see you work and they see that God is with you, people notice. People notice when God is using you or God is with you. They can just tell that he's with you. And he was very successful in his house. And God provided for Joseph. Because he was such a good worker, Potiphar made Joseph an overseer of his house. Even in Egypt, God was good to Joseph, and he was with him at all times. He always blessed and provided for him. This is really important because, let me remind you, Joseph was sold by his brothers. How would you feel if you were sold? Yet God still provided for him, and God was still with him. God is with you in the good and the bad. And quite frankly, it's in the bad times that we need God, because he's the only one who can get us through things. However, so basically you can see things is going great for Joseph. However, something else was also going on. Potiphar's wife noticed how handsome and strong Joseph was. Every day she would lust and desire Joseph. In Genesis 39, verse 7, here's what she would constantly ask Joseph. And it came to pass after these things that his master's wife cast longing eyes on Joseph, and she said, "Lie with me." In other versions of the Bible, I just read the New King James Version, it says she wanted to sleep with Joseph or have sex with Joseph. She wanted Joseph to commit adultery with her. But in Genesis 39, 8 through 9, here's what Joseph responds to her demand. But he refused and said to his master's wife, "Look, my master does not know what is with me in the house, and he has committed all that he has to my hand. There is no one greater in this house than I, nor has he kept back anything from me but you, because you are his wife. How then can I do this great wickedness and sin against God?" Joseph is telling her that he would not sleep with her. He refuses to go against his master. Potiphar gave Joseph all that he could wanted. He provided for him, and the only thing he kept back from Joseph was his wife. Because obviously he didn't want to give up his wife. Because he didn't want, the thing that was so important to Joseph was that he didn't want to disrespect and disobey God. Because God hates adultery. And he wanted to, and more importantly than losing his job, because he could have lost his job. Over losing his job, the thing that was always important to Joseph was that he always was in a right place with God and that he was obedient to him. He knew sleeping with her would be going against his master, and more importantly, it is a sin that goes against God. And it's important for us to know too that, and I would say for me, as a young teen, I don't want to engage in sex too early. I want to remain pure. I I want to have clean thought. I want to remain holy in God's sight. And so many in this generation thinks it's bad that you don't know certain things, that you don't look at certain things, that you haven't been taught certain things that's at an earlier age than they have. I just want to say, be happy that you still have innocence. You don't want to know too much. Something that I've learned is you have to stay in a child's place. You don't want to learn too much about what is going on, what's happening. You don't want to know the certain things that are out here, what the world says you should know. Be happy that you have your innocence. Be happy that you have your purity. And I'm happy that I have my purity. And sex, you want to wait till you get married. Don't do it too early. You don't want to have early children. You don't want to be a teen parent. It's not good. So keep your purity and keep your honesty and keep your innocence. So Potiphar's wife would constantly ask him to sleep and have sex with her. Every time she asked Joseph, he always rejected the request. One day, however, she finally grew tired of his refusal to sleep with her. She asked him one more time to sleep with him. Only this time, she grabbed Joseph by his garment. Joseph still refused to sleep with her. Joseph ran away from Potiphar's wife, leaving his garment with her. Full of fury, Potiphar's wife would not let Joseph reject her like that. She wanted to get back at Joseph for his dismissal of her. And in Genesis 39:16-20, here's what Potiphar got news from his wife and what he did when he heard the news. So he left his garment beside her until his master came home. Then she spoke to him with these words: "The Hebrew slave whom you brought to us came into me and to make fun of me. But when I raised my voice and screamed, he left his garment beside me and fled outside." Now when his master heard the words of his wife, which she spoke to him, saying, "This is what your slave did to me," his anger burned. So Joseph's master took him and put him in the prison, to the place where the king's prisoners confined, and he was there in the prison. Potiphar got news from his wife that Joseph came into her, that he tried to play around and have a sexual relationship with her. She told him, and she screamed. She told him she screamed, and he ran away. When Potiphar heard his wife's report, he had Joseph arrested and put in prison. So here's Joseph, who was once this hard-working overseer in his master's house, successful young man, and a good hard-working servant. Now he's been lied on by his master's wife and is now in prison over a lie. And I'm just going to say, one thing to know is that when being called by God, people will notice. And they'll notice you for good and for bad reasons. And another thing that's so important here is that he was lied on. You're going to be lied on. You're going to be betrayed. But still, God is still with you. And he's going to get you through it. They're going to lie on you. They're going to betray you. It could be a friend, a family member. But even still, that's not going to be the end of you. God still has a plan in store for you. And then another thing that's key to all that is happening is in Genesis 39:21. But the Lord was with Joseph and showed him mercy, and he gave him favor in the sight of the keeper of the prison. Regardless of what was going on, God was still with him. God still gave Joseph favor, grace, and safety. So as I close this episode, I want to leave you with 2 points. The point I want to leave you with, the first one, is being called by God at a young age. You need integrity and honesty. Joseph had the integrity to refuse to sleep with Potiphar's wife. The thing that was so key to Joseph and his integrity was Potiphar was not around. He could have had sex with her. And she probably could have been smart enough to keep lying to where Potiphar never knew. It could have happened the day after day after day after day. But he knew even though Potiphar was not around, He knew God was still watching. Don't think you can get away with it. Even if you get away with something that maybe your parents or an authority has, you never have gotten away when God is on guard. And He's on guard always. Your integrity is always going to be tested when no one's around. It may involve your friends doing something that you know is not right. But you have to know that God is watching you, and you have to have some level of integrity that says that's not right. No, that's not right. I need to go away. I can't do this. God is watching me, and I'm held accountable for my actions. And know that even if you do the thing and you never get caught, God still knows what you do. And you never know how He may alert what you did to somebody else. So let's have moral integrity. It may save your life. And another thing is, God is with you in the good times and in the bad times. Joseph has been sold by his brothers, put in prison, lied on, yet it says here that God was still with him. It doesn't matter what you're going through, in the good and the bad, God will come to you. People who think that God only comes to you and provides for you in the good times, they're wrong. God is here with you in the bad times. In fact, like I said before, it's the bad times that we need God the most. It's the bad times where God demonstrates His power and that He'll always watch over us. So never forget that God provides and God is with you. Thank you for listening to this episode on Created for Christ's Work. Please be sure to like, and comment, and I will see you later. And this has been Langston Bartley on Created for Christ's Work.